welcome to another episode of What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. Our focus, workplace, workforce trends. We want to find the trends that are shaping the workforce, and we want to find workplaces that are doing some unique things and maybe selling some unique products, or maybe have a story that we think we know, but perhaps we don't know the full one. And that's what we're going for here today. And I'm going to start by using some pretty strong words. Glorious, homage, absolutely perfect, or I depend on it. I can't think of the right words. I am holding in my hand right now a 1-ounce bag of community coffee. Coffee and chicory. I get it directly from the plant once a month. It comes in and via UPS. We use so much of it that I have stopped buying it at the local grocery store and just have it shipped directly from the plant to the house. When it comes and arrives on my doorsteps, I can hear choirs of angels beginning to sing in the background. Every day is a better day when that community coffee in the UPS box shows up on my doorstep. And I wouldn't say I'm addicted to coffee, but if you were to tell me I couldn't have it anymore, things would get bad, real bad. I would start breaking into homes and stealing other people's coffee. I would go into a deep, dark depression, thinking I could never have coffee again. When I travel, one of the biggest concerns on my mind is, what is my first cup of coffee of the day gonna be like in this destination? Am I going to a place where they appreciate coffee? Some of the worst coffee in the world is hotel room coffee that's left there overnight. I don't even touch the stuff anymore. It just makes me sad for humanity. But if I'm home, then my steps every morning, from the moment I roll out of bed to my feet hitting the floor, are a familiar path to the coffee maker, where the night before I have prepped everything. I've got the water in the canister in the reservoir. I've got the basket out and set with the liner in it. And I have the coffee in a airtight canister next to it with the spoon scoop on the top. So that in the morning, I go from my bed to the coffee maker, portion out the correct amount, and start the coffee maker, and then count down until I can have that first cup of coffee. But I'm not addicted to it. I'm just fine. It's a hobby, nothing more than a hobby. I just kind of like coffee. And the coffee that I like for years has been community coffee. Community coffee, deep South roots, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And it was when I was drinking a cup of this, and it came the other day, and I was drinking a cup in the afternoon, that I thought, why not see if they'll be part of the show? I'm not so sure I'll be able to keep it together speaking to people like this because they're such a big part of my life, but why not ask? I'm kind of in the no business. I ask a lot of people to be on the show, and I get a lot of no's, and I don't tell you about them, but I get a lot of no's. But worst they could do is say no. I'd add them to the list. They said yes. And in just a little while, I'm going to have Matt Saurage on the line. Matt is the 4th generation owner, president, chairman of the board of Community Coffee out of Baton Rouge. His family began this with a man, I'm reading off the label of a bag right now that I'm holding in my hand, Cap Saurage. In around 1919, the company began. Community Coffee is all over the South. I would guess it's all over the United States. I drink the chicory. And I've always thought chicory may be a hoax, but I've tried coffee without chicory, and I like it with chicory. I want to learn more about it. I want to learn about the coffee business. I want to learn about this coffee blight that I read about that caused fear in my bones that hasn't seemed to show up. And I want to meet a man who's probably a hero of mine just based on the amount of his coffee that I drink, Matt Saurage. And we'll have him on the line when we get back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston.
I'm Michael Coward. My team and I will work with your corporate team to help you with your executive employee benefit plans. We offer executive retirement plans that allow you to favor your leadership team as well as 401k plans for your entire company. We've served the Mobile market for over 20 years. Call us at 251-342-0446 or find us online at cowardassociates.com. That's COWART associates.com.
Securities offered through Pro Equities, member FINRA, SIPC.
Think about how people really see you. The kid at the drive-thru just sees a coffee drinker.
Please pull forward.
Your local barista sees the person who loves a smiley face in their latte.
See you next time.
It's kind of the same way with insurance. Other insurance companies just see a customer, but a State Farm agent sees more. They see you as a neighbor. Your State Farm agent is here to get to know who you really are, so they can help life go right.
Call me, State Farm agent Allison Horner, in Mobile at 666-1616.
This is What's Working. I'm Cam Marston, and on the line is Matt Saurage, fourth-generation owner of Community Coffee Company. Matt, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for your willingness to participate.
Well, you bet, Cam. Thanks for taking the time, and look forward to visiting you today and sharing our really fabulous story that we here in Deep South all appreciate, which is the story of great coffee.
Yeah, great coffee, and I'm going to emphasize that. It's great coffee. I'm a disciple of your coffee. I want to read a little bit off your bio real quick. You currently serve as the chairman of the board of directors for the Community Coffee Company. You've lived in Brazil to get the learn more about the coffee business. You were elected president of Community Coffee in 2005, and then in 2012 became chairman of the board. You are the president of America's largest family-owned and operated retail coffee brand. That's pretty cool, starting back in 1919.
Yeah, a lot has changed since those early days in 1919, and my great-grandfather founded the company. But I can tell you today that the climate for coffee with the younger consumer, the climate to acquire a darker roasted taste like we enjoy here on the Gulf Coast is the future's never been brighter. Our next 100 years, I think, is going to be a tremendous time for the company. But at this point, we're really recognizing what it's our story of the past 100 years and the people who made us who we are.
Well, you mentioned something that so many of the guests on this show have touched on, and that is getting the attention of the younger customer. We talk about the millennial generation a lot. It's part of my work outside of this show is to continue to research that generation and their demands of the marketplace as well as the workplace. What is the coffee consumption by the millennial generation? What does it appear to you? Are they picking up on coffee? I mean, I remember I had a conversation with a beer guy saying, they're not drinking as much beer as we wish they would. He had to say that very carefully, but they're not drinking as much beer as we wish they would. Are they drinking coffee the way you hope they are?
They are, but it's a different format. So unlike, in the past, coffee was typically consumed at home or at work, and it was either with milk and sugar or black. The younger consumers today consume coffee in many different forms. So bottled drinks, maybe foods or desserts or dairy-based beverages that contain coffee. There may be coffee is really seen as an enhancement to their diet. And that's okay. It's different than the way we enjoyed coffee. Iced coffee or a blended beverage just doesn't sound like coffee, but it is. And what the younger consumer is demonstrating is curiosity to experience coffee in different flavors. And over time, in time meaning probably the age you and I and many of the listeners really started drinking coffee, maybe by 20 years old, they get very interested in the story of coffee. What is it? And we're seeing them brew coffee at home, consume it at work, consume it black, hot, and throughout the day. And that trend of the all-day consumption is probably the biggest change in the industry, and it's increased consumption of coffee over the last 20 years.
So it used to be just the first thing you do, you get out of bed, you have a cup of coffee. Today, people are drinking it throughout the day, and the younger consumers are doing that as well. Is that right? Is that what I understand?
That's right. The young consumers are choosing convenience of having coffee in many different formats through the day, and also health. Coffee is good for you. Coffee provides good cardiovascular effects, mental alertness. Of course, it's a social facilitator. I think we all experience that when we enjoy coffee with a friend. And also, it prevents the certain diseases and cancers. They believe it has a very positive preventative effect. So it's not the miracle drug, but it is. But coffee is truly good for you. And the younger consumer is using health and convenience, and that's a good trend.
I'm wondering if over a person's lifetime, their taste preferences for coffee changed. When I first started drinking coffee, and I remember it was studying for an exam in high school. I thought, oh my gosh, I'm so far behind in studying for this exam. I'm going to have to try this coffee stuff. And since that time, I have moved more to a darker roast, a more bold taste. Do people's taste of or preferences for coffee taste change as they age?
I believe that all of our taste preferences change over time. Certainly, our ability to taste flavors as you age diminishes. So stronger flavors, perhaps even darker roasted coffee, but spicier foods tend to appeal to folks as they age over time. The younger generation, though, is experimental. They enjoy the variety of starting with a very sweet, sugary, dairy-based beverage. And over time, either because of budget, health concerns, or maybe, again, you got to be careful. You don't want to call it maturity, but palate maturity.
Right.
They begin to discern different flavors, enjoy it black. We all grew up on coffee milk, but I drink it black today.
Yeah. I'm moving that direction myself. I still put a little cream in it, but I'm moving with less and less cream. And one of these days, I can just see me saying, I'm out of cream and I'm not going to go get any more. It's time to go to the black coffee. Community coffee with chicory. All right. So I went to Tulane, not far from you. That was my first introduction to chicory. I first thought it was a hoax. It's a marketing ploy. Give me the story of chicory. How did it get into the coffee business? And if you were to hand me a handful of chicory, what would you be handing me? What is this stuff?
Well, I'm going to start with the last question, which is, what is chicory? And chicory is the root of actually an endive plant. It's related to a dandelion. The root is about 2 hand lengths long. It looks like almost kind of like a large carrot. And the chicory root contains a lot of naturally occurring sugars in it. So it's actually kind of a sweet root.
What color would I find? What color would it be? You're handing me a chicory root. What color is that?
It's kind of a pale orange color. It's not like a carrot, but it reminds you of one when you see one, but kind of a cross between a carrot and a potato. The chicory is sliced into smaller portions. It's cut and roasted, and we do not roast chicory. Chicory roasting is it's kind of a sticky operation because of all the sugars in the product. But traditionally, it is roasted on site and then ground for specifications. And coffee companies like ours will just blend the roasted chicory with roasted coffee immediately before packing, into the package. And chicory has an interesting story to it. It really traces back to the Napoleonic Wars. And during that time, the French were blockaded. Their ports were blockaded. They could not receive the coffee they loved. And they already were familiar with chicory. Chicory is grown in Belgium and France. It was very popular there, still is today, used in salads and other flavorings and seasonings. So they blended chicory with coffee to extend their coffee supply. That existed, for only a few years, but it stayed in the tradition in France. You continue to find chicory, and a lot of people will blend it with coffee to have a lower caffeine beverage. And here in the United States, many of us related to New Orleans. Actually, I would relate it to Mobile, equally to New Orleans. The highest concentration of our coffee and chicory business is New Orleans and Mobile. The stories there really trace back to the Civil War, and when coffee was in short supply, some of the French influence in New Orleans again brought back the blending of chicory with coffee, and that's the roots of it here in the United States. Cam, if I can tell you an interesting story about chicory, we sell a lot of chicory. We sell a lot of pure chicory as well as coffee and chicory coffee. We only have one blend that's coffee and chicory. But on the internet and on online sales, we sell pure chicory to health enthusiasts through major online retailers, and they're seeking chicory for its health benefits. And I'll share 2 of them with you. Most people believe that coffee and chicory is a high caffeine coffee that has brilliant flavor and really strong. Chicory is caffeine free. So it is a path to a lower caffeine beverage while still having a lot of flavor and spice and sweetness to it. The second is the health benefits of chicory, and they've linked it to be a superfood and as a major provider of antioxidants, almost at the parity level of blueberries.
Oh,
and
really?
Sweet potatoes. Yes. So research has been showing that they believe chicory to be a natural beta blocker and superfood. So it's an old ingredient. It's very unique to the traditions of Mobile and New Orleans, but it is getting widely accepted across the United States as a desirable product to consume in our diet.
So in my hand right now, I'm holding a 16-ounce bag of community coffee and chicory. It is less caffeinated than a other bag of 16 ounces without chicory. Is that correct? Is that what I understand?
That is exactly correct.
Interesting.
Most people say that coffee and chicory sure is strong, yeah? And the truth is, if it's whatever percentage chicory is reduced caffeine. It is chicory contains no caffeine. It really has very little caloric value or nutritional value, but it has naturally occurring sugars that come across the palate as sweet.
Interesting. Listen, we're with Matt Saurage here. You're listening to What's Working. Matt, we got to go to a break. We got to give our advertisers their say. We're going to come back. I want to talk to you about this coffee blight that I remember reading about, which sent shivers of fear through my spine, but I haven't seen anything happen. I mean, I'm still getting your coffee. It's still showing up every month on my doorstep. Thank the Lord. We'll be right back with Matt Saurage. Hey, this is Cam Marston. If sales in your business comes from prospecting to create leads that lead to sales, I want to tell you about Sales Up Coach, a cloud-based system created for the next generation of sales professional. There's a big difference between being busy and being effective. And Sales Up Coach helps salespeople who rely on prospecting uncover which of their activities produce the greatest results. Over time, Sales Up Coach's machine learning hones salespeople's schedule to focus only on activities that generate the most bang for the buck. Your sales team interacts with Sales Up Coach on their smartphone, and sales managers can instantly generate reports to see who is on goal and who may need additional support. Go online and take a look at this new and very powerful sales tool. Go to salesupcoach.com/Cam Marston. Watch your sales team's productivity change.
Think about how people really see you. The kid at the drive-thru just sees a coffee drinker.
Please pull forward.
Your local barista sees the person who loves a smiley face in their latte.
See you next time.
It's kind of the same way with insurance. Other insurance companies just see a customer, but a State Farm agent sees more. They see you as a neighbor. Your State Farm agent is here to get to know who you really are, so they can help life go right.
Call me, State Farm agent Allison Horner, in Mobile at 666-1616.
Hi there. I'm Josh Knoll with Gulf Coast Financial Advisors. As your business grows and you accumulate wealth, planning to protect your assets becomes more and more important. I work with individuals and business owners throughout Baldwin County to help them protect their prosperity. Call me today at 251-327-2124 or find us at gulfcoastfa.com.
Securities offered through Pro Equities, member FINRA, SIPC. This is Cam Marston. You're listening to What's Working. I'm back with Matt Saurage. Matt is the chairman of the board and the president of Community Coffee based in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Matt, before the break, I kind of queued up a question. There was this threat of I think it was called the coffee blight, maybe a fungus that was landing on the coffee beans. And whatever happened to that? Did they solve that problem, or is that going on?
It's defined as roya or coffee rust. And it's a leaf rust. And what it is a naturally occurring fungus. It is on every coffee farm in any kind of wet climate today. Usually it's herbicides or fungicides and other good husbandry of the crop will prevent it from getting out of hand. And it's created in a very moist environment. These spores create a kind of a barrier to the leaf absorbing sunlight and absorbs some of the moisture. And it creates spots on the leaves, naturally occurring. And what happened a number of years ago is because of climate change, some areas were wetter than they normally were and hotter and more humid overnight. than traditionally were, and the plants responded by producing an increased amount of this fungus, this leaf rust, and it began to spread. Since it is a spore, it's carried by the air, and so as it would move from one plantation to the next, and at its worst, 40% of the Latin American crop was infected with widespread leaf rust. Leaf rust will kill the coffee plants, and in fact, it reduced the output of Latin America by as much as 30% that year.
Wow.
The reason that it's such a threat, even though it's naturally occurring, is because of low coffee cost, which perhaps the farmers wouldn't treat their plants, or they wouldn't spray a fungicide on them as they normally would because they can't afford to, and because of climate change, that this can occur again, and it can occur at any time. And when a coffee tree dies, it's replaced, and that coffee tree will not produce coffee that's suitable for harvesting and exporting for 3 or 4 years. So it can put part of a farm out of business very quickly.
Yeah. It sounds a bit like a vineyard, a wine-producing vineyard, that takes a while for that new vine to produce a grape that can be used in the wine. And I didn't realize it took that long. So how long does a coffee plant live? What can you expect out of the life cycle of a healthy coffee plant?
Well, the coffee species is very resilient, and actually is a long-growing tree. Its root base can exist for 25 years and produce great coffee. The trees are pruned. Sometimes they're reduced just to a stump so that they can regrow again at a height that it can be harvested. But a typical farmer will keep a coffee tree in the ground for 20 to 25 years on the longest. It's a very expensive and investment for these farmers. So when we talk about disease control, when we speak of irrigation or sunlight and importance of Mother Nature on a farm, it's very sensitive to those conditions because the size of the investment and the impact of climate change really cannot be addressed overnight. So what we're finding is that the gradual change in climate, which is very normal, is affecting farmers slowly. It's kind of like having a frog in a pot of water on the stove, and you slowly start to turn up the heat.
Yeah.
By the time you realize the climate has changed and your farm is not productive anymore, it's too late to recover.
Yeah.
So there is a threat to coffee production globally, and because of that, there is a significant investment by the coffee community to do research to help coffee farmers adapt to changing climate and to provide education so that things like leaf rust and longer, drier seasons don't put these 25 million coffee farmers out of business slowly.
25 million farmers? Is that right? That's extraordinary.
25 million farming families. The average coffee farm is only 5 to 10 hectares, and let's call it 4 to 8 acres of land.
Yeah. So many regions that produce coffee. I was in Hawaii in June and had Kona coffee for several days. I've heard about this coffee from Jamaica that's supposed to be so good. There are regions that say their coffee bean is superior. Is there any truth to this, or is this all marketing?
I do not believe it's all marketing. I do believe that some coffees are superior to others, depending on who is tasting the coffee. Coffee is a very personal flavor, and I prefer Papua New Guinea as my favorite coffee globally that I enjoy to drink. Others would say Kona, and others would perhaps say Brazil. The Kona story is a great one. Great coffee is produced there, where it's the only state in the United States that exports coffee. And I believe that if it's good tasting to you, just like selecting blends from the grocery shelf, if it tastes good to you and it's welcome in your home, then that's the perfect coffee. It
was 20 some odd bucks a pound, if not more, when we bought it in Kona. And my hands trembled a little bit. I'm not used to paying that much for a pound of coffee. That was a little bit.
It's a fair price.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a fair price. The amount of labor that goes into coffee is incredible.
Yeah.
And the fact that we can afford to buy coffee at the grocery store for $6 or $7 a pound is unbelievable based on the amount of manual labor that goes into the product. And Kona is in limited supply.
Yeah.
So supply and demand always plays a role.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I felt like as I was walking down that grocery store aisle in Kona. They're like, what else you going to get? You need your coffee. Where else you going to go? I got you here. Now, you mentioned New Guinea. Isn't New Guinea the place where they harvest the coffee beans after the monkeys have gotten to them? Do you know what I'm referring to?
I know what you're referring to, and that exotic fermentation in the belly of a monkey or a cat is not a coffee that I've ever had,
yeah.
or one that I'll ever sell.
Yeah.
It's a sensitive food product, and there's some exotic things out there. New Guinea, I don't know that if they have that coffee, but there's a coffee for everybody.
Yeah, yeah. So it's interesting that Mobile and New Orleans kind of dominate, that's my word, not yours, but dominate the chicory business for you. Are there other regions in the nation where you see a strong concentration of a particular recipe of yours?
Chicory is unique to these two cities, Mobile and New Orleans. When you look at the map of the United States, there are different taste preferences. So a darker roasted coffee in softer water environments in the South is a dominant blend. When you get to the Midwest, maybe through Texas, up through Illinois and those areas, harder water conditions, and they'll generally drink a lighter roast coffee. So it's interesting the way that culturally food plays a role, but also the process of brewing coffee, even though it's very technical, it does impact what people believe is a fully brewed, full flavorful cup of coffee. We do see light roast coffee in New England and dark roast coffee in the Northwest, as you would imagine. But it varies by region. Everyone has a particular taste, and a lot of that is related to their cuisine.
I was looking through your website prior to getting you on the phone, and there are reviews from people on the coffee that they've bought that your website facilitates, all of which are very, very positive, which I guess you would expect, and also curate these things for the website. But I was looking at the locations of the people that were reviewing them, and they were all over North America. Where is your market? Obviously, it's U.S., but there's some in Canada as well. Do you go beyond the U.S. and Canada?
We ship, thank you, and I'm glad you were able to visit our website at communitycoffee.com. We have some amazing stories and information and videos to help share knowledge about coffee. And our audience is global for our online business. As you can imagine, we ship a lot of coffee overseas to the military, to servicemen and women who are displaced in their homes. We ship a lot of coffee to chemical engineers and oil professionals that are working overseas. It really travels a great distance. In the continental United States, we're distributed in about 23 states and growing. And that is states where they'll receive our grocery coffee, and then also building out our office coffee network and fine restaurant network.
Yeah, I've noticed that. In fact, I was in an office building here in Mobile earlier in the week, and they had a big community coffee brewing station in there. And I thought, oh, wow, that's apropos for the conversation later this week. How is technology? Technology is impacting every business that we're aware of. How is technology messing with the coffee business these days?
Two fronts, Cam. I think technology is something that has to be not only recognized as changing our environment, but we have to adapt it to all of our supply chain, all of our practices. So certainly on the selling and communicating side of the business and business tracking, the formal business instruments are affected by technology, and we're utilizing those fully. But the greatest impact, the greatest potential for technology in our business, I believe any agricultural business, is communication at origin, communication with the farmers, technification of the farm, helping to spread information that can help the farmer become more productive, more efficient, produce a better product. And so we see technology in Latin and South America. The investment there is incredible by our industry. Conservation International has an initiative today to make coffee the first fully sustainable product in the world throughout the supply chain. And we and many other roasters and organizations are working alongside them to do that. And it's based on data and communicating and really helping using technology to create a sustainable, cleaner coffee platform, from growing the product and emissions to shipping and receiving and marketing the product.
So when you say
technology is important,
I want you to define what it means to be fully sustainable. Help me understand that.
That is a challenge for Conservation International right now to define what is fully sustainable, but they do know that it encompasses responsibility of a sustainable environment. So we're looking at wastewater and groundwater protection, soil protection. It does include sustainable economy, so fair price, so that the farmers have a good standard of living. This can be their primary crop. Sustainability of the culture, so that the labor force around the farming communities are sustained with education, and they have an opportunity to develop a good, strong economy there. It also applies to emissions. So ocean-going freight, finding a carbon neutral or a carbon neutral is the goal, footprint for freight, ocean freight as well as land freight. So it is an enormous initiative, but right now we have farms that do not have the information they need or the data they need to take care of their economies and their land fully, and that's a starting point.
Real quick, do you guys own any coffee farms in Latin America? Does Community Coffee own any land down there where coffee is grown?
No, we do not own any coffee farms anywhere in the world.
Okay. Well, we got Matt Saurage on the line, folks. Matt, when we get back, I want to talk to you about when you took over the family business, any sort of fingerprints you wanted to leave on it, not leave on it, but make on it. And the label that I'm looking at here in this 16-ounce bag says across the top, family-owned Community Coffee. What does that mean to you and to the customer? And there is your signature right there on the bag, too. I want to know what it feels like to have your name on the coffee that's being sold all over the world. You're listening to What's Working, folks. I'll be right back. Matt Saurage, President, Community Coffee. Hey, this is Cam Marston. If sales in your business comes from prospecting to create leads that lead to sales, I want to tell you about Sales Up Coach, a cloud-based system created for the next generation of sales professional. There's a big difference between being busy and being effective. And Sales Up Coach helps salespeople who rely on prospecting uncover which of their activities produce the greatest results. Over time, Sales Up Coach's machine learning hones salespeople's schedule to focus only on activities that generate the most bang for the buck. Your sales team interacts with Sales Up Coach on their smartphone, and sales managers can instantly generate reports to see who is on goal and who may need additional support. Go online and take a look at this new and very powerful sales tool. Go to salesupcoach.com/Cam Marston. Watch your sales team's productivity change.
Think about your home. What do you see? Do you just see two stories or the stories of your toddler's first steps? Now think about your car. Do you see an odometer reading or your kids reading in the back seat? Other insurance companies just see a house. They just see a car. But a State Farm agent sees what your home and your car really mean to you. So why not give them the protection they deserve?
You can reach me, State Farm agent Allison Horner, at AllisonHorner.com.
This program is also brought to you by my company, Generational Insights. We've been in the seminar business for 20 years, working with clients ranging from Fortune 500 executives to locally owned mom and pops, helping them improve their sales, their management, their recruiting, and their retention. We give knowledge first and then build tools based on that knowledge that make people more successful at their jobs. And soon, we'll add customer service training. Check us out at cammarston.com. We're back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. On the line with me is Matt Saurage. Matt is the chairman, the president of Community Coffee. A little bit about him from his bio here. He and his wife, Catherine, 5 children. Matt, you're like the second or third person in a row that I've interviewed that has more than 1 or 2 children. For some reason, I'm on this streak of big families in the radio show. 5 kids, that's That's pretty impressive. So I'm a father of 4 myself. It's nice to meet people with a bustling nest, if you will.
It's an investment in the future.
There you go.
And I love every one of them.
Is there a 5th generation on the way? Are they currently working in the business with you now?
My oldest and my nieces and nephews, the oldest is just turning 21. They are finishing up their education, and they have all worked in the business as children. They followed the footsteps I did, and my parents did, and my siblings did, which was to come to work with me, see what I do, meet the people I work with, and put their hands on the business. So they've been involved their entire life, and it's my aspiration and responsibility to ensure that there's a 5th generation of Saurage family in the business.
Tell me the story of Cap Saurage. 1919 began the business. The story on the side of the bag is that he found the secret of making special coffee. Cap Saurage in the year 1919. Your great-grandfather, do I have that right?
Yeah, yes. Cap Saurage is my great-grandfather, and he in 1916 had a store that he operated with his brother here in Baton Rouge, and he got very interested in coffee, and he fell in love with the coffee environment in New Orleans, where he was purchasing roasted coffee and then driving it up to Baton Rouge along with other dry goods like sugar and flour and other items that were sold in the store. And over the next couple of years, he began to create his own coffee blend, started blending coffee in the store, and would serve it to his customers. It was a place to visit, and it was probably the only free thing you could purchase or experience in that store was his cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And he fell in love with the industry. And so in 1919, he sold his interest in the store and went fully into to coffee. And it was a big risk. He was truly an entrepreneur who was pursuing his passion and betting his family on it, and that he would be successful in coffee one day.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, it seems to have worked out pretty well. I imagine like every family-run business, there are succession plan issues in your background. One generation was a little bit reluctant, and then there are cousins and nieces that want to be involved. How many people from the original family are still involved in community coffee today?
Well, it passed directly from my great-grandfather through his son, and which would be my grandfather,
yeah,
and through to our family. And today in the business, I'm the only Saurage that's employed in a role in the company. My mother is involved as a manager and a director on our board, and so is my brother. He's a director on our board, and so we have multiple family members engaged in the business formally. One of us employed, but all the family, my siblings and my nieces and nephews, are all connected to the company in some way. Even at a young age of 12, they're getting an understanding of what the business is and why we're in the business. And, Cam, at the end of the day, I believe that entrepreneurs and business leaders take risks because they believe in people and they want to provide an opportunity for personal growth, for individuals to do something they're passionate about and enjoy their work. And that's the connection my family has to the company, regardless of their age, is they understand, or I'm hoping they do at a young age, understand that this is life's meaning and providing opportunity and using that opportunity to benefit others, whether it's in philanthropy, it's through employment, or it's through just having a good working environment.
How many people do you employ today, Matt?
The coffee company has nearly 900 employees, and it's community coffee operations.
Kidding me? I expected to hear 200. That's what I had, 200. Does it bother you a little bit, Matt, that New Orleans is so affiliated with coffee, yet one of the nation's most prominent coffee companies is an hour away and is hardly ever, in my opinion, maybe I'm wrong here, affiliated with coffee culture? Baton Rouge is the home of your company, yet right down the road, all the coffee attention is given to New Orleans. Does it chafe you a little bit?
It does not. We have a roasting operation in New Orleans as well. We employ a couple of hundred people in New Orleans area, so it's as much of our brand identity as our home office in Baton Rouge. And, Cam, what's interesting is today in the United States, there's 6,000 small roasters of coffee. There are craft coffee roasters all across the United States. And coffee is being defined in Mobile, It's being defined in Birmingham as well as it is in the Northwest as far as what is a coffee culture. And coffee it's such a social facilitator. It's so ingrained in our neighborhoods that I don't think you can pinpoint one place as being responsible for what we believe will be coffee today or tomorrow. New Orleans certainly has the history, and it certainly was a primary port of entry for coffee for centuries, and I believe has some of the finest people and the finest cuisine in the world. But each of us are defining coffee through our individual coffee shops and coffee roasters.
There is a coffee shop not far from where I'm sitting right now, Carpe Diem in Mobile. They roast their own stuff, and the place is packed all the time. People come there to meet and socialize and have a cup of coffee, and it's early in the morning. The parking lot is full. Late at night, the night owls are in there. It's amazing what this drink does to bring people together.
Well, if I can share a story with you, I was in Mobile just last week, and I went to Carpe Diem. I've been familiar with them since about 2 years after they opened. And the experience you have in an independent coffee shop like that, with knowledgeable employees who, in a very warm environment, who truly appreciate the conversation and sharing their knowledge about their product, is the secret to the success of brands like ours, Community Coffee, and brands like Carpe Diem that have been in business now for almost 25 years.
Yeah.
It's personal, it's people, and you've got to be passionate about what you do. And I think that's a great example of the future of our industry. We are today one of the few family-owned coffee companies in America of our size. Certainly, there's less than a handful today that's a branded family-owned coffee company, and that's very unfortunate. When I entered the business 25 years ago, there were over a dozen. There were almost 17 that I got introduced to and met the families of these companies all those years ago, and many of them are gone. And that's very unfortunate. But if you can look in your neighborhood at your small roaster, you'll see the future of the industry. There will be privately owned coffee companies and roasters that will come together to either create or join great brands. And that's what I'm excited about, is helping them remain entrepreneurial, try to support their business and encourage them to grow, and then recruit them to join companies like ours to pursue a lifetime in coffee.
Do you view a Carpe Diem as a competitor?
I see Carpe Diem as serving a very unique purpose that we cannot. I think that if they serve their neighborhood, I think that's very important. They create memories around coffee. I believe that's very important. Our brand's role is that as folks move into the workplace, share stories or seeking coffee, that we will be there to serve that purpose for them. And we'll reinforce their experience with the best tasting coffee they can ever experience, that they have a great coffee experience. But that the entry point of them going to their neighborhood coffee house brought them to our brand ultimately.
Yeah.
And we have to, I'm an industry player. We're here for the long haul. And we believe that you support entrepreneurial efforts. You support those who really respect the product, provide good entry points for young consumers. And our responsibility is to run a disciplined brand that is there to serve their needs over a lifetime.
So speaking of the brand, I'm actually holding a 16-ounce bag. Just for your information, I'm on your mailing list. I don't know if that's what it's called, but I think once every month or once every 5 weeks, I get a shipment of Community Coffee straight to my door from Baton Rouge. I no longer buy it retail because I don't know. I just like to know it came straight from you. I don't know. But when it comes and it's at the door, it's a glorious day. And I take great theatrics in unpacking the box and putting these little, I call them a brick of coffee away, and knowing that I'm safe going forward. But back to the brand. Your name is on the label. All right. And I assume there was some transition as you took over as president or chairman of the board where somebody's name went off the label and yours went back on. Is that what happened?
Yeah. It was a little more peaceful than that. My name was added to the package at a time where we were expanding beyond our traditional geography of the Deep South. And we were growing beyond our traditional 8 to 10 states. And we're reaching out to St. Louis, Nashville, and North Carolina, in North Texas and really trying to grow, I felt it was important that there was an identity of a promise, the promise that this will be a great tasting coffee experience. And if it's not, that we will fully do everything that we can to make it right, whether it's refund, replace, or respect your request to get another coffee. And so I feel that the personal signature was my promise. It's a promise I've made over my career to grow this company, to make sure that it remains family owned and remains in business for future generations, and that we serve our customers as well as we can. And if my signature is not a guarantee, then I don't know what else is, because I've put my whole life and my effort into it.
One of the things that I wanted to ask you is what fingerprints you hoped to leave on the company when you took over as either president and or chairman. Am I safe to say that one of the things you wanted to do is grow it beyond the traditional, I think you said 8 states where it was already sold?
Yes, we've, I think that I'm not a legacy builder, but if I think you use the term fingerprints, and I believe we all leave fingerprints, and what my goal is more so than geography or national distribution, anything that's measurable in financial terms, is I want to make impact on the lives of our employees, and so that they have very satisfying careers, that they enjoy where they work, where they feel good at wearing the Community Coffee brand when they go home at night, and that I make a difference on the future generation of my family as well as my employees' families to come join us. We have multi-generational employees today, and I fully expect that we will tomorrow. And if I can make a difference in their lives, then that's the fingerprints that I wish to leave behind. The business will follow if we take care of the people and take care of the brand. On the label is a picture of a home, kind of a rendering of a home. Tell me whose home that is. What's the story there? Well, the house on our logo on the front of the package actually exists. It's here in Baton Rouge on a street called Government Street, and it was a house that my great-grandfather built late in his life. The house itself was a drawing that he created and put on the bag back in the 20s, maybe the 1930s, when the house first graced the package. It was a house of fine coffee, and for him it was a dream that one day his business would be successful and that he would be able to build his own home, which he did do. And it was a home that he died in 1968. He passed away. The home in which my father was married, and remains central to the story of entrepreneurship. And if you dream it, if you believe it, you can do it. And in this case, it was to one day have a fine home. That's awesome. What about, I've heard stories about the Bush family, the Anheuser-Busch family. When a new child is born into that bloodline, as a newborn, they put drops of beer in the baby's mouth. Do you do the same with your kids and the coffee? Do you make your newborn child choke down a cup of coffee and chicory, or even just a drop? The official answer to that is we give them coffee milk at an appropriate age. But I know for a fact that every child that's been born has had a droplet of coffee on a fingertip placed on their mouth to see their reaction and try to get an early read on what kind of coffee drinker they'll be. But I think traditions like that are fun. They keep the family in the business. The family is always in the business, and the business is always in the family. But if you can't have fun and a little bit of humor along the way in doing it, then why are you doing it? And so we try to be sure that all of our children at least enjoy the flavor of coffee milk when they're young. Yeah. Because it's an experience you don't want to miss. And again, most of those coffees are enjoyed with family, with a grandparent, a parent, or a sibling. And those are the memories we're trying to build here at Community Coffee. Matt Saurage, President, Chairman of the Board, Community Coffee, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Matt, it's been a great honor to speak with you. I am not just a drinker. I'm a disciple of your product. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate your support in business, Cam. Take care. We'll be right back with final comments, folks. You're listening to What's Working. This program is also brought to you by my company, Generational Insights. We've been in the seminar business for 20 years, working with clients ranging from Fortune 500 executives to locally owned mom and pops, helping them improve their sales, their management, their recruiting, and their retention. We give knowledge first and then build tools based on that knowledge
that make people more successful at their jobs. And soon, we'll add customer service training. Check us out at cammarston.com.
Life insurance is one of those subjects that make people want to change the subject rather than admit they probably don't have enough. I'm State Farm agent Allison Horner, and that's why I focus on how the benefits of life insurance actually live on by asking people to think in terms of life without having to sell the house insurance, or life without having to give up college insurance. Find out how the benefits of life insurance can live on for your family. Call me, State Farm agent Allison Horner, and get to a better state with State Farm.
Hi, I'm Jay Stubbs with First Protective. People approaching retirement are concerned about outliving their income and being a burden on their children. They fear chronic illness, and they want to leave a legacy. If you're a life insurance producer or in the traditional investment business and this describes your clients, we can help. Call me, Jay Stubbs, 251-604-7024, or find me online at firstprotective.com.
Interesting that Mobile and New Orleans are the two hot spots for coffee with chicory from Matt's company, from Community Coffee. I would have guessed it would be in the Southeast for sure, but not so highly localized as two markets, really, Mobile and New Orleans. During the commercial break, I got up and got myself another pour of this coffee and chicory. So I'm doing my best to continue our market share for him. It's a good product. I didn't know that chicory was a sweet root either. That was new to me, and that you could buy it from him if you wanted it. I don't know that I want any. I want it in my coffee. But anyway, thought it was really interesting. I want to thank Matt for his time and insight into the business. Thank goodness they are trying to prevent this coffee blight stuff that he talked about so that we can all have our cups every day, every moment of every day, it seems like to me sometimes. It's a business that I think is sexy, and he would probably roll his eyes. Most insiders in their business that the outsiders look as sexy, the insiders say, it's not. It's work. It's people, it's work, it's product, it's customers. There's no sexy to it. But to me, from the outside looking in, it's sexy. Another one that I said that to, you may remember if you're a fan of the show, we had Joan Maxwell with Regulator Boats on the show one time, and I said, Joan, your business is sexy to me. And she just started laughing. Man, it's about boats and fiberglass and customers. There's nothing sexy to it. Outside looking in, to me, it's sexy. All right, another show in the books. I am a lucky guy to get to speak to these people about their businesses, people that I've always found very interesting, and Community Coffee and Matt Saurage, certainly near the top of that list. Thanks to Kristen Ogden. She helped arrange this interview, a champion at that. Thanks to John Thompson, who's going to be editing this and getting it ready for the end user, the consumption. If you want to hear it again or forward it on, go to my website, cammarston.com, where you'll find the link to this show across the top of that webpage. You can click on that and you can listen to it there, and you can see the different places you can download it as a podcast, and I hope you will do so. And that's the best way to forward it on if someone else wants to hear it. If you do subscribe to these podcasts, how about rating it for us? Those ratings matter. They don't. I didn't think they did, but they do. And I want you to reach out if you've got show ideas, feedback, another question for Matt that you'd like to get him back on the show. Cam, C-A-M, at cammarston.com or 251-260-8100. That's our phone/text line, and you can leave us a message there. You're listening to What's Working, folks. We'll have another show next week. Have a good week, everyone.